It's 11:20. Brain training games don't improve your mind. That's according to a scientific study launched by the BBC. The largest ever investigation followed almost 11,500 people to see what effect, if any, brain training would have. Can you train your brain? All of the study volunteers were viewers of the BBC One Science programme Bang Goes the Theory. So that's the programme, Can You Train Your Brain? So is it all rubbish? Can you really train your mind? Are the games a waste of time or a great way of sharpening your focus? Jim Petruzzi could be described as a brain trainer. He works with businesses and sportsmen to improve their mind. Hello, Jim.
Good evening.
And Jessica Garn is a neuroscientist at the Medical Research Centre and was involved in the study. Hello, Jessica.
Hello.
So Jessica, first of all, lots of people have been doing these brain training games on their handheld computers and in newspapers. Are you saying it's just pointless?
Well, it depends on what you want to get out of it. What we were interested in finding out was whether people were going to get more out of it than actually improving on the specific test they were training. And what we found was they aren't. So if you want to do quick mental math tests to improve your mental math, by all means go for it. You will get better at mental math. But if you want that to help you in a more general way, it's unlikely these data show that will help you in a more general way.
How can you map the brain, Jessica? It's a muscle, isn't it? And if you exercise your legs, the muscles get better and more responsive. Surely the brain works the same.
Well, there's certainly a good analogy to be made there. The problem is the sorts of things that we have people do during these computerized brain training tasks are often very narrow. And if you want to exercise your brain, you need to do things that really challenge it and challenge it in a lot of different ways. So things like learning a new language or training on a musical instrument. These would be the sorts of things we might expect.
But brain training is supposed to take 3 minutes.
Exactly. It's a shortcut, right? That's why it's so popular.
Okay. Well, stay there, Jessica. You can speak to Jim, actually. Jim Petruzzi is with us. He's a brain trainer. Is that right, Jim?
I am indeed. Yeah, I do work in that area.
Have you got any brain trainers you can just give us now, just to give the listeners an idea of the sort of things we're talking about?
Yeah, I think it's important to bear in mind that, as well as doing other things as well, like exercise, nutrition, and doing other things to assist and complement in the development of cognitive function. I think we need to bear in mind with the research that was undertaken, the reliability, validity, and specificity of the subjects as well, the motivation of the people involved in the program, and also the key objective into the training itself. And I think that it's such a variation in types of brain training that's available. I think that we need to look into the wider scope and look at different techniques.
Well, you would say that, wouldn't you? Because essentially what this research says is your business is just, it ain't working.
And that's the opinion of the research to a certain extent. That said, there has been a number of other findings as well in different research projects, albeit not that many because it's quite a new area, that have suggested that people do improve. I think the thing to bear in mind as well is, if we're looking to specifically improve and objectively improve in a specific area, then we can improve. Now, the reason why I would question the motivation of the subject, if I took 11,000 people off the street and they had no interest in football and trained them in how to play football, then they're hardly going to get any sort of improvements. And it's also important to know...
Well, hang on, let's put that to Jessica. Jessica, your study sample wasn't right. That's pretty much what Jim's saying.
Well, he's made an excellent point, which is if you're not motivated to improve, you're unlikely to, and I couldn't agree more with that. The great thing about this size of sample is that we actually had hundreds of people who were extremely motivated. So even though we only asked them to log on 3 times a week to do the training, some people logged on over the course of 6 weeks hundreds of times to do this. And that, to me, suggests they were extremely motivated. And the key finding was that even these highly motivated subjects, when they trained on these computerized tasks, didn't show any transfer effect. So they weren't getting better at a more global cognitive functioning level.
Yeah, I think added to that, to my knowledge, it was a 6-week program which quantified around about 10 minutes every other day. Now, if I was to quantify that in physiological fitness training, if I said to you, I want you to run a marathon, but you go away and train for thereabouts 10 minutes every other day, you're hardly going to make a massive inroad. Now, the objectives there weren't specific for my life.
All right, well, look, I don't want to dwell too much on the specifics and the science involved in the actual test. I just want to talk about brain training.
Sure.
What sort of things do you recommend, Jim? I mean, I'm saying give me and Jessica an example now. Set us a little puzzle that we can do, see if our brains are trained.
Sure. Well, the concept is that it works on the concept if you don't use it, you end up losing it. So just like any muscle, the physiological muscle, if we don't use our muscle, then it starts degenerating. Same as different aspects of the brain. So what we do, we integrate a series of different exercises, and it's not all done via the PC, and it's not all done in terms of games. What I aim to do personally is I aim to objectively design a game so it can assist someone develop a specific area. So for example, if they've got dyslexia or ADHD, we can design something which meets their learning style and learning need. An example could be of brain training to physiologically get someone to play snooker to do their physics point, so they can suit their kinesthetic learning style. We can also design games.
I don't understand what that means.
Well, an example might be if I had to work out an angle of how to get a snooker ball into a pocket, and I was kinesthetic, more hands-on, I'd be more motivated to want to do that.
I mean, Jessica, there are huge implications here, because while brain training can be a bit of fun for a parent who picks up his child's game and has a little go, or you look in the front of a newspaper and try and do a quick mental arithmetic, some newspapers carry these things every day. There are people with problems, aren't there, who may want to exercise their mind. Essentially, are you saying here that they'd just be better off reading a book?
Well, we can only actually conclude things about healthy adults in this study, because that's what we looked at. So we didn't actually look at elderly brains or people who might have Alzheimer's or be rehabilitating something from a stroke perhaps. So we can't conclude that brain training wouldn't help those people. What we're saying is that people who are looking for that little extra boost, who are otherwise perfectly healthy, aren't going to find it from the sort of computerized brain training that's available.
But when you say that, then it is essentially people with problems who are going to benefit most from brain training.
That very well may be true. We didn't look at that in this particular study, but yes, the thing to remember here also is just because something that helps someone who's got, say, Alzheimer's disease, doesn't mean the same principles would necessarily apply to a healthy brain. So to take the marathon example that Jim mentioned earlier, the sorts of muscle exercises you would do to repair a torn muscle would be really different than the sorts of exercises you would do if you were trying to train for a marathon.
Right, so what are you implying here then? That the people like Jim are making false claims? I mean, what are you trying to say?
Well, I don't know exactly what his claims are, so I wouldn't say that. What I'm suggesting is that if anybody is claiming that computerized brain training in general has big cognitive effects that transfer to daily life for the average healthy adult, our data suggests this isn't the case.
All right, well listen, just before Jim has a go back, Jessica, I'm going to give you some numbers in sequence. You've got to find me the last one. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Sorry, I have to do what?
I'm going to train your brain.
Oh, no.
I
only study brain training. I don't actually do it.
I'm sorry, you've got to put your money where your mouth is, Jessica. Are you ready?
Sure.
33, 26, 19, 12. What is the next number? See, logic would say now, while Jessica's thinking about that, her brain's ticking over, Jim.
Yeah, it is.
5.
What?
5.
5. Okay.
I think.
Is this the point where I realise I haven't got the answer?
That works fine for me, because I might be wrong.
Okay, well I'll take 5 now, and while someone scurries around for the answer, I'll speak to Jim.
Yeah, I think that a well-designed brain training program will integrate the various functions, and you'll constantly adapt to changes in the user skills. So,
what does that mean? Come on,
well, it's all
plain English. Tell us what you're trying to say.
Well, it's all varies to each specific individual. So, an example might be you might specifically design a game for someone who's looking to improve their key skills at school, their mathematics, arithmetic, or you may integrate a game to help someone who has got dementia improve concentration. So I think it's important to note that we're not advocating that brain training on its own is the be-all end-all for cognitive improvement and function, but it can be as part of an integrated program, as well as nutrition, exercise, and a number of other factors as well for useful technique.
All right, Jim, we're going to call an end to it now. Jessica, just before you go, you were right, by the way. It's not about 7 in between. But if you were going to debunk brain training, surely you should have used a base of people, some of whom maybe were suffering from dementia, some from Alzheimer's, because they are amongst the